Jules Vaughn's story is one of the most emotionally complex journeys in modern television because it explores something raw, common, and often unspoken. What happens to a child when the most important person in their life becomes psychologically or emotionally unavailable? In Jules's case, her mother is not simply absent, she is present in memory, in trauma, in expectation, and in longing, yet she is painfully unreachable in all the ways a child needs a parent to be. To understand the psychology of Jules Vaughn, you have to look at her through the lens of attachment theory, which explains the bond a child forms with their caregiver and how that bond shapes their entire emotional world. Jules's mother represents what psychologists describe as the unavailable attachment figure, someone who is supposed to be a source of safety and comfort but instead becomes unpredictable, emotionally distant, inconsistent, or absent at the moments when the child needs them most. This kind of upbringing doesn't just create sadness or loneliness, it rewires the child's sense of self, their patterns in relationships, their ability to trust, and their beliefs about what love is supposed to feel like. Through this lens, Jules's actions, desires, and fears stop looking chaotic or impulsive, and start making sense as survival strategies she learned early on. For Jules, her mother wasn't just a person who left. She was someone who left a psychological blueprint behind, one that Jules tries to escape but keeps returning to again and again. The first thing to understand about Jules's relationship with her mother is how unpredictable love becomes for a child when the parent is emotionally unstable or dealing with addiction, mental illness, or overwhelming personal struggles. An unavailable attachment figure is not simply someone who disappears physically. Often, they are someone who is physically present but emotionally unreachable, or they swing between moments of warmth and moments of distance. For Jules, this inconsistency becomes a pattern she internalizes deeply. As a child, she learned that love could disappear at any moment, that care could turn to chaos quickly, and that her own feelings were too big, too heavy, or too difficult for the person she needed the most. So Jules grows up learning to protect herself not by avoiding connection, but by chasing people who give her even small traces of comfort, even if those people are unreliable. What looks like sudden attachment or obsession is often a kind of emotional hunger formed in childhood. She clings because she learned early that if she doesn't hold on tightly enough, the person she loves might vanish. At the same time, she pulls away, because being close to someone also reminds her of the mother who hurt her by being both needed and dangerous to depend on. The psychology of the unavailable attachment figure teaches a child that love is unstable, unpredictable, and something they have to work hard to earn, and this is exactly the emotional world Jules carries into adolescence. She becomes hyper-aware of rejection and yet drawn to intensity. She seeks connection but fears it at the exact same time. This push and pull pattern shows up in nearly all of her relationships: her connection with Rue, her interactions with online strangers, her flirtations, and even the way she navigates her gender identity and her sense of self. For Jules, relationships become a place where she tries to rewrite the story of abandonment she experienced with her mother. She tries to win people over, to be wanted, to be chosen, because deep down she is still trying to make sense of why her mother could not stay, why her mother could not be the stable figure she needed, and whether she herself was ever deserving of that stability. These are not conscious thoughts for Jules, they are emotional reflexes, patterns shaped long before she had the language to describe them. Another major psychological impact of having an unavailable mother is the way it shapes self-esteem. Children who grow up with inconsistent love often develop a sense of emptiness or confusion about their own worth. Jules learns early on that she has to shape herself into whatever version of a person might be accepted. So much of her identity exploration, her shifting emotional needs, and her desire for validation reflect a child who never felt fully seen by the one person who was supposed to see her clearly. Her desire to be soft, feminine, adored, or desired is not simply about gender expression. It is about building a self that feels worthy in a world where her mother's emotional absence made her doubt her value. When a child grows up feeling emotionally abandoned, they often take that silence personally, as if it were proof that something is wrong with them. Even after growing older, even after gaining independence, that feeling lingers. Jules's constant search for connection is also a constant search for reassurance that she deserves to be loved. Jules's relationship with Rue becomes another chapter in the psychological story shaped by her mother, because Rue is both comforting and fragile, both loving and unstable. It is almost as if Jules, without fully realizing it, is drawn to someone who mirrors the emotional chaos her mother created. When a person grows up learning that love equals unpredictability, they often gravitate toward relationships that recreate that unpredictability, not because they want chaos, but because chaos feels familiar. Jules isn't trying to repeat old pain, she is trying to master it. She is trying to love someone who needs her, hoping that if she can make this relationship work, it will retroactively give meaning to the pain her mother caused. But loving someone who is struggling, like Rue, forces Jules back into the emotional role she had as a child, responsible for keeping someone else together, terrified of what might happen if she fails. This becomes overwhelming for Jules, who already carries deep emotional scars. Her desire to escape, to run, to start over is not simply about immaturity. It is a psychological response shaped by years of inconsistent love. At the heart of Jules Vaughn's psychology is a longing for stability she never received. Her mother's unavailability did not just hurt her, it taught her a lesson about the world, that love is temporary, that intimacy is risky, and that needing someone is dangerous. Yet beneath all that pain, Jules still hopes for connection, still believes in the possibility of being understood, still reaches out even though reaching out has hurt her before. This combination of fear and hope is what makes her character feel so real. It reflects the experience of so many people who grew up with emotionally unavailable parents. They want love deeply. They chase it passionately, but they fear it silently. Jules is constantly trying to heal herself while still carrying the wounds of a mother who could not be what she needed. Her entire journey becomes an emotional negotiation between who she learned to be and who she is trying to become. And through all of this, something very human shines through: the desire to finally be loved in a way that feels safe, consistent, and real.